Good evening, everyone. I think we're now ready to get underway. I'd like to commence by calling upon Councillor Galt to read the Acknowledgement of Country.
I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and elders from other communities who may be with us today.
Thank you. I now formally open this evening's council meeting and welcome you all. I request that mobile telephones be turned off or switched to silent. Thank you. This council meeting is being live streamed on the council website, so you can watch proceedings of the meeting, councillor debates, deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the council website as soon as practicable after the meeting. Should any technical problems be encountered during the meeting may be adjourned until the problem is fixed, or if necessary, the meeting may be postponed. My name is Councillor Felicity Sinfield and I'm the Mayor of the City of Boroondara. I'll start by introducing my fellow councillors who are seated at the horseshoe table in the council chamber. To my left, Councillor Park, Councillor Watson, Councillor Stavrou, Councillor Galt, Councillor Addis, Councillor Franco, Councillor Biggar, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gillies and Councillor Hollingsworth, the Deputy Mayor. I also acknowledge our CEO, Mr Philip Storer, who's seated beside me, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Wee, to my left. There are other officers in attendance tonight and they will be introduced as they present their reports. I will now move to apologies. Mr Wee, are there any apologies this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are no apologies this evening.
Thank you. I'll now move to the items in our agenda papers. Item 1 is the adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the council meetings held on the 5th of December, the 8th of December and the 19th of December, I believe. Councillors, can I please have a motion to adopt and confirm these minutes? Councillor Galt, our system's a little bit out of whack this evening.
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth?
So second, thank you.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 2, declaration of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officers. Councillors and council officers, are there any general or material conflicts of interest you wish to foreshadow to be declared when a matter on the agenda arises? You can do so now or before that, immediately before that item is heard, if something arises throughout the meeting. Are there any conflicts known at this point? Thank you. Item 3, deputations and presentations, petitions and public submissions. Mr Wee, are there any deputations, petitions or public submissions this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are 4 petitions in relation to fox populations in Burundara, the Willsmere Pavilion, 76 Wattle Road, Hawthorn, and development of combined properties at 336 to 338 Riversdale Road and 2 Clive Road, Hawthorn East.
Thank you. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion to receive and note these petitions as printed in our papers? Councillor Thompson.
Happy to move these as received. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Addis, happy to second?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Item 4, informal meetings of councillors. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion to receive and note the record of informal meetings of councillors as printed in our business papers? The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Councillor Biggar?
Yes, I will move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Gillies?
Second, thank you.
Thank you. On the assumption that, that there is nobody opposed to that, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 5 brings us to public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 noon will be provided with a detailed verbal response as well as a response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but will otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Mr Wee, I understand we do have some public questions tonight.
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor. Through you, we have 4 questions from 3 community members.
Thank you. Our first question, 4 questions were received prior to 12 noon today, and the copy of the question has been circulated to councillors. Our first question, as I understand it, is by Chichi Chen on behalf of Jackie Brown. The subject is establishment of an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee, and the question is: the list of advisory committees, as at item 7.7, does not include an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee. So when will Council establish an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee? And the response to that question is that, well, first of all, the question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of our governance rules. And my response to this question is that an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee is currently being considered by councillors. Jackie Brown, you will receive a written response to your question in due course. Question 2 is submitted by Lee Norton. The subject is installation of Baldwin Road, North Baldwin pedestrian signals. And the question reads: when does Council now expect the Baldwin Road, North Baldwin pedestrian signals to be installed and operational, given that residents were informed in May 2022 that the pedestrian signals are likely to be installed before the end of 2022, and that it is 21 years since the need for a dedicated crossing facility was identified by Council? Thank you, Mr Norton, for the question, and this question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of our governance rules, and I call upon the Director of Places and Spaces, Mr Daniel Freer, to respond to this question, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. As advised in the letter to the community on the 26th of May 2022, the Department of Transport and Planning has requested that Council deliver the project rather than the Department of Transport and Planning, despite Baldwin Road being a declared arterial road under the control of the Department, and that the pedestrian signals would be owned and operated by the Department. Council officers have progressed the design in line with feedback received from the Department to date, and there has been a need to deal with several internal departments within the state, and unfortunately this feedback on the design has taken longer than envisaged. The design is in its final stages of approval and is expected to be completed at the end of March 2023. Once the approval is received, the tender process for the installation of the signals will commence, and the tender is expected to be awarded by the end of May 2023, with installation commissioned by November 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Freer. Mr. Norton, you will receive a written response to your question in due course. The third question tonight is from Mr. Ian Hundley. The subject is reimbursement of development expenses, and the question reads as follows. Please advise of total direct and indirect costs incurred by Burundara Council for the development of plans for railway station car parks on behalf of the Commonwealth, and whether all of these expenses have been reimbursed to the Council by the Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. Hundley, for your question. This question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules, and I once again call upon the Director of Places and Spaces, Mr. Freer, to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The total expenditure on commuter car parks across all sites in Burundara was just under $1.1 million. This consisted of direct costs of consultants and expert reports to the value of approximately $542,000, and indirect costs including internal resources and officer time, project management, approximately at $531,000. The federal government has paid for all of these project costs, and no ratepayer funding has contributed to the project directly or indirectly as a result of their payment.
Thank you, Mr. Freer. And our fourth and final question submitted prior to noon today is also from Mr. Hundley, and the subject is Greythorn Park Pavilion Expansion Project. The question reads as follows. Can Council advise a schedule for dialogue with local residents, the Friends of Greythorn Park, identified sporting clubs and organisations to commence at the concept stage of the proposed $3.5 million Greythorn Park Pavilion? Thank you for the question, Mr. Hundley. This question is allowed once again in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules, and Mr. Freer, I call upon you for a response, please.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Council will develop a consultation and engagement plan as part of the standard process for the redevelopment of the Greythorn Pavilion. The development of the pavilion will be considered as part of Council's next budget period, and once a concept design is available, broad community consultation will occur, inclusive of sporting groups, local community and friends group.
Thank you, Mr. Freer. And Mr. Hundley, once again, you will receive a written response to your question in due course. Mr. Wee or Mr. Storer, questions received after 12 noon today. Thank you. Just the one? Thank you. This question is submitted by Mr. Theo Biller, and the question, two-part question. Question one is, what was the need for increased number of councillors? Mr. Storer, would you like to respond to that one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Victorian Electoral Commission undertook a review of Burundara's electoral boundaries and came to the view that with the increase in population which had taken place over the recent years, there ought to be 11 wards created, not just the 10 which existed previously. So the decision was actually made by the Victorian Electoral Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Biller, and thank you, Mr. Storer. Part two of the question, and I'm not quite sure if if I can articulate this, but I will read it verbatim. What protocol allows to talk to CEO, directors or mayor? Mr Storer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our contact details are available on our website, and Mr Biller is certainly welcome to contact any of us he needs to. Of course, the issues will be dealt with at the appropriate level in the organisation, so just because something comes to myself, to the Mayor or a councillor does not mean we will be the ones who will necessarily respond. But certainly if Mr Biller needs to contact us, he's able to do that, and a response will come from the appropriate person in our organisation.
Thank you, Mr Storer. Mr Biller, I hope that satisfies your question there, and a response will be provided to you in writing. Does that exhaust our questions? Thank you. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda, notices of motion. Mr Wee, do we have any notices of motion this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are no notices of motion this evening.
Thank you. Item 7, presentation of officer reports. Does any councillor have any issues with the order of the agenda or wish to flag a particular agenda item for discussion or questions for officers? If not, I will suggest to you some items to be moved en bloc. There are no lights on at this point, so it is my suggestion that the following items be moved en bloc. Item 7.1 in relation to 32 Corby Street, Balwyn North. Item 7.4, recommendations of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. Item 7.5, the December 2022 Quarterly Performance Report. Item 7.6, the biannual report from the Audit and Risk Committee. And Councillor Thompson.
If there's no discussion or from other councillors, I'm happy to move those en bloc, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Just a question. I wanted to clarify whether 7.8 MAV membership could be deferred to a future council meeting. I don't believe it's urgent, and I believe there's still some matters to discuss with that.
Okay, we might deal with that one in a moment and just move forward in relation to those items suggested to be moved en bloc at this point.
I'm happy to second that, by the way.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Then I will put that motion to the vote, and just for clarity, it includes 7.1, 7.4, 7.5 and 7.6. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And thank you, officers who came to present on those items. So that brings us to item 7.2, which is the draft naming policy. And bear with us for one moment while we get our papers sorted. This item will be introduced by Fiona Brown, Manager of Community Planning and Development. And Mr. Michael Hutchinson. Thank you, officers.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. Good evening. Tonight I am here with Community Planning and Development to present the updated naming policy for adoption by Council. The renewed and updated naming policy outlines the processes for Council as the naming authority responsible for naming Council-managed assets, including roads, features and localities within the municipal district. The draft naming policy has been reviewed in line with the Geographical Place Names Act 1998 and guidelines provided for under Section 5 of the Act, known as the Naming Rules. The naming rules were reviewed by the Victorian Government and released in February 2022. It is important to note that existing names do not need to be revisited to ensure that they comply with the naming policy or the naming rules. The naming rules recognise the diversity of our population. A new principle in naming rules from the Geographic Names Victoria has been added to encourage the commemorative naming of places after women and other principles strengthened to ensure traditional owner views are considered before using traditional owner language in their naming proposal. The policy also responds to Action 6 of the Boroondara Reconciliation Strategy 2022 to 2026 to develop an internal naming policy and procedure with advice and feedback from the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. Council recognises the importance of names for providing locational references for community members, emergency services and other agencies and companies to navigate to a location and orient themselves. The policy outlines that when selecting names, Council will endeavour to create a sense of place and strive to honour and observe the local character of the area. Council will also aim to honour cultural heritage and historical connections of the relevant precinct and select names consistent with any identifiable historic naming trends or themes in the local precinct. Where appropriate, Council will support naming in traditional owner language, consider gender equality and recognise the cultural diversity of our population to ensure Council is inclusive of all communities. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, officers. Councillors, are there any questions for officers? Councillor Galt.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's a bit of a process to go through to select and approve names and consultation with the community, etc. Do you have to hand, or could you let me know roughly what the cost of doing this is for a piece of roadway or laneway?
The cost is probably just the public notice advertising. I would imagine it's nothing more than that.
Thank you. And Councillor Franco.
Thank you. The policy is very clear in respect of consulting with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung in relation to obtaining their feedback in relation to traditional names, but it's silent on consulting with them in relation to non-traditional names. And is there any reason why Council might not consult with them in relation to non-traditional names or seek their feedback?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, there would be no reason why we would not. For a naming proposal, we would be doing a piece of research, and that research could include the Wurundjeri as well. We would imagine that we would be looking at a number of sources to identify appropriate names and possible names for councillors to consider as part of a naming proposal. So yes, we can consult them on that too.
Yeah, so in that respect, I mean, I presume it could be important in relation to any non-traditional names to ensure that they are also appropriate. That's correct. What you're alluding to, what I'm alluding to, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. I have a separate question as well.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
There's a point in the policy that says, bear with me, .4.1, .5, Council will not name a place after a living person or a commercial entity business except in exceptional circumstances with the registrar's approval. Could you perhaps give some indication of an example of what might be an exceptional circumstance such that Council might want to be willing to allow this exception in the policy?
Probably the only exception that I'm aware of to date was when we named a room within a building after a living person, but in those instances we don't actually need to follow the naming policy because it's not an asset. It's the building itself that we would be looking at in that instance, so that's the only occasion I can think of when we've named something after a living person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Brown. Mr Storer, did you want to add anything to that? No? Thank you very much. There appear to be no further questions, so councillors, is there anybody prepared to move a motion? Councillor Franco.
I'm prepared to move a motion, but I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with a couple of amendments.
And is that something that officers already have at hand?
No, I'm just reading it now, and I'm just reading out. So it would be under 3.1 for naming proposals using the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung language, the traditional owners, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation, will be consulted in line with the requirements set
So,
out.
Mr. Franco, Councillor Franco, I might just stop you there for officers' benefit. Is this
It's fairly simple. I'm just going to add a few words and delete a
you're-
couple of words.
You're just going very quickly for officers there, so can I just ask you to slow down so officers can go step by step, word by word?
Okay. So to make it really simple, in that paragraph,
Which paragraph?
3.1, and you've got to scroll down to it. I'll just bring it up again.
Madam Mayor, are you happy to suspend standing orders or to take a short adjournment whilst this is drafted?
I was going to suggest an adjournment. If you don't have something already pre-prepared, I think it's appropriate to give officers the benefit of
It'll
time.
be pretty quick, but if you want to suspend, then I can just bring it up and it won't take long. It'll probably take me a couple of minutes with the officers.
Okay, so I think it's probably worth an adjournment in that case because that would be neater for our community that are watching and with us in the chamber. Councillor Thompson?
5 minutes, Madam Mayor.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Hollingsworth, all those in favour of a 5-minute adjournment? And that's carried. Thank you. It's 6:59. We stand adjourned for 5 minutes. Councillors, are we ready to recommence?
Happy to move.
And Councillor Addis, I can see your light on, presumably for a motion to recommence proceedings.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Councillor Biggar to second.
Yes, please.
Thank you. All those in favour of resumption? And it's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So I'll ask officers to display on the screen behind me here the motion as drafted by Councillor Franco. Councillor Franco, is this your motion?
Thank you. This is the motion I'd like to move. Can I speak to the motion?
Not yet. Let's find you a seconder.
I've got a question. Are you happy for me to ask the officers before a seconder? Or?
Yeah, I think that's probably wise. So let's hold things there, and without wanting to draw officers into debate, we might find out what the consequences of this are. So, Councillor Addis, if you would like to ask your question.
That's effectively what my question is. Will it appreciably alter the policy? Because I wasn't clear that we would consult with them for all proposals.
Thank you. And Ms Brown?
Look, as a matter of course, we would be consulting the community on a proposed naming proposal. That is part of the policy. The naming rules that sit behind the policy would require us to go out and consult prior to council choosing to proceed with the naming proposal.
Councillor Addis, does that answer your question?
Well, it doesn't entirely, because why haven't we got everyone listed up there, like, you know, the local residents within X metres and whoever else? I don't get it.
Councillor Addis, we might head to debate and be able to air these opinions shortly, if in fact this has a seconder. So I'll see if there are any other questions for officers at this point.
Yeah.
Councillor Stavrou.
I was wondering, Mayor, thank you, whether there would be an opportunity for contradicting the rest of the policy by the alteration there.
Thank you. Ms Brown?
No, I don't believe so.
Does that answer your question? Yep. Councillor Park.
It's typical that in circumstances such as these, there'd be specific consultation with the named group. Have officers consulted that corporation to ask if it would be interested or willing to do what's proposed in this motion, which I might add shouldn't be carrying the heading officer's recommendation, because it is not, of course.
Thank you, and that has been altered on the screen. Ms Brown.
Thank you. We did consult them in developing this policy, specifically around the principle that relates to Aboriginal naming, and they would very much like to be involved in that consultation process. The naming policy makes provision for us to consult with the community once we've developed a proposal to see if there is support for that. So we haven't spoken directly to anybody about their involvement in the general consultation process. That's a requirement set down by the registrar.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, I just want to be abundantly clear. If the motion, the officer's recommendation was adopted, the principles to which is on the screen would ordinarily happen, that council would consult with the Wurundjeri on all naming rights, including European, for instance?
As part of developing a naming proposal, we would identify appropriate stakeholders to consult with. It could be with European names that we might consult with them, but we would be required as part of the consultation around the proposal that council would like to go forward with, that we would need to go out generally to the community to see if there is support for what is being...
So the fundamental difference between the officer's recommendation and this is might versus will?
Yes.
Thank you. That appears to exhaust all questions at this point. So, Councillor Franco, I'll just ask you to affirm your motion here and then we'll seek a seconder.
Yes, I affirm that motion.
Thank you. And I'm in search of a seconder. It appears that motion fails for want of a seconder.
Chair, I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Park. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Stavrou.
I can second that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed to that? Councillor Franco?
Not opposed.
Okay, your light was on. It doesn't appear that there is anyone opposed to it, so Councillor Park.
I won't speak at this juncture. I'll just reserve my right.
Thank you. There are no other lights on. Councillor Franco.
I will support the motion, and I'm very pleased that the naming policy is before us. I think it goes towards taking some significant steps to allowing council to move on its commitments in respect of the reconciliation policy that we previously adopted, and I'm very much welcome the work that's been done. I do think it's important that the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung are consulted on all names, whether they're Indigenous traditional names or not. The policy at the moment is worded in such a way as stating that the Wurundjeri will only be consulted in relation to traditional names and that they will have a veto right over such names. But I do think it's important, and I know that council officers have said that they would, out of, in the course of normal business, undertake those steps to consult with the Wurundjeri prior to bringing anything to council for public consultation in respect of non-traditional names. My personal view is that should have been actually spelt out as a mandatory requirement in the policy to make it clear that that's the approach that our council will take. I'm pleased that we have it on the record from council officers that they will go down that path. So on that basis, I'll certainly be supporting the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. Councillor Park is the mover of the motion.
Thank you. I agree with much of what Councillor Franco had to say, but of course we don't need to traverse seriatim the various groups that officers will consult. I'd hate to see a situation where one group's elevated over another in importance. We've got many local history societies that their volunteers do enormous work and have done for decades. So there's great local knowledge there. and the community in general. I think it's a situation where we don't need to be virtue signalling. What we need to do is to make sure that appropriate groups are consulted, and this is exactly what the policy will do.
Thank you, Councillor Park. As the motion is not opposed, I'm not inclined to offer Councillor Stavrou the opportunity. So I will now put that motion. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, officers. Our next item is item 7.3, Community Strengthening Grants Policy 2023. This item will be introduced by Ms Fiona Brown and our Director, Ms Kate McCaughey.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is to present to Council the Community Strengthening Grants Policy 2023, which is attachment 1 for adoption. Since the adoption of the policy in 2020, there have been a number of council and external initiatives that have informed proposed changes to the policy. The policy includes the following amendments: the creation of a new category of climate action grants to respond to an action in the Climate Action Plan Implementation Plan, renaming of a category formerly managed under Council's procurement policy from the Boroondara Community Services Tendered Grant to the Community Support Grant to reflect this category being a competitive grant rather than procurement process. The third change is the creation of a new category of grant, the Lead Tenant Grant. Fourth, renaming the Community Strengthening Grants Assessment Panel to reflect its review role to be the Community Strengthening Grants Review Panel. Removal of a category, which is the Funding Centre subscription grants, as this subscription is an operational cost. And there are another series of other minor amendments related to child safe standards, glossary definitions, and alignment with the BCP 2021-31. So the recommendation before you tonight is on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Brown. Councillors, are there any questions for officers? Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. And I just have one question in regards to the new category of climate action grant in response, that you references in response to the climate action plan. Do we have any other categories of grants that respond to plans, as Council has many plans?
The Community Strengthening Grants Policy aligns itself from a number of council plans, and they are noted within the policy. This responds very much to an action in the Climate Action Plan that we create a new category of grant, and it's a little different from an existing stream within the Community Strengthening Grants around sustainability. This one is around climate mitigation. So we have developed it in response to an action in that plan, noting that the policy generally aligns with other plans and strategies as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Doesn't appear that there are any other questions at this point. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion? Councillor Thompson. Sorry, Councillor Park was actually first here on the screen.
Jumping for joy, whichever one. It speaks for itself, this policy, Madam Mayor, so I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Park?
Happy to second.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed? It appears not. Councillor Thompson.
As I said, this policy reflects where council is at with its number of plans. It reflects some of the community things that we're working at with the community on. I think it's a sound policy to move forward our community grants process on. Thank you.
Thank you. While it appears not opposed, Councillor Park, do you wish to speak to the item?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then I will now put that motion. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, officers. Seven 7.5 and 7.6 were carried on block, so that now takes us to 7.7, which is councillor assignments to advisory committees for 2022-2023. This item will be introduced by our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Way.
Through you, Madam Mayor. By this report, councillors are to be appointed to a range of internal and external advisory committees, as well as to some external management committees and boards. Councillors have nominated previously for these boards, and those nominations are on screen for councillors' review. This report also recommends a second resolution that the number of councillors appointed to each individual committee be restricted to 5, representing less than a majority of the total number of councillors. Happy to take any questions in relation to the nominations or in relation to this annual process.
Thank you, Mr Way. Are there any questions for officers? Councillor Park.
I just foreshadow a motion, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Councillor Galt.
Are we able to alter a nomination at this point in time?
Absolutely.
Do you want me to proceed with that? I'm happy to withdraw from the Metropolitan Transport Forum. I'm not even in there.
That withdrawal of nomination was noted earlier today, Councillor Gold. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very preemptive.
Lucky we have a crystal ball. Thank you, Councillor Galt. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'm in search of a seconder then. Councillor Gillies.
I'm moving the officer's recommendation. I should clarify for you.
Thank you, Councillor Park, for the clarity.
And
Councillor Gillies.
that is the same recommendation I think I'm seconding.
Excellent to hear. Thank you. To assist the mover, is there anybody opposed? Councillor Watson, you have your light on. Are you opposed?
No, I just wondered, have we found a seconder yet?
We have. Councillor Gillies. Thank you. Councillor Franco.
Can I ask a question of officers or of you, Chair? Just
that time has passed.
Okay. It's a very simple one. Are there any changes beyond the MTF nomination to what was circulated?
Not to my knowledge, but I'll just double check with Mr Way. It was as circulated?
There have been no changes since the nominations were circulated. There was one change noted to the Community Grants Review Committee. Councillor Hollingsworth replaced Councillor Stavrou.
Thank you. So to assist Councillor Park, there are no lights on at this point, but is anybody opposed to the motion? There appears not. Councillor Park.
I'm happy for the motion to be put, Chair.
Thank you. Then I will put that motion. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to item 7.8, MAV membership. And for the community, that's the Municipal Association of Victoria membership. And this item will be introduced by Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Way.
Through you, Madam Chair. As a result of recent changes to the rules of the Municipal Association of Victoria, Council will now be bound to 2-year membership terms and a 6-month notice period if it seeks to withdraw from the MAV. That applied from the 31st of December, and following initial discussions with councillors, Council gave notice that it intended to withdraw. However, that notice and the withdrawal would not be effective until 1st of July 2023. Consequently, there have been a number of changes, including that the MAV has decided regional groupings for councils, and that wasn't in accordance with the representations that this council made. In considering MAV membership, the key issue is whether or not in officers' views, the membership fee of $78,000 represents value for money for council. The MAV provides 5 services: policy and advocacy, governance and legislation, sector development, insurance services, and procurement assistance. In relation to each of these, Council derives some benefit, but not a great deal of benefit from policy and advocacy, governance and legislation, and sector development, where Council officers do attend courses, and indeed councillors also attend courses from the MAV. In relation to insurance services, Council is required by the Local Government Act to have insurance, and currently the MAV is the only provider of that insurance. The MAV have indicated that if Council is not a member of the MAV, then it is still likely that Council will continue to be afforded these services, but there may be an additional fee associated with those services. Lastly, in relation to procurement, Council does use a range of panels provided by the MAV, and using these MAV contracts and panels does save a reasonable amount of money for Council. In reviewing the MAV panels, Council officers were also careful to examine which of those MAV contracts could actually be obtained from Procurement Victoria or from the state government instead. And even removing those, council officers estimated that Council would save over $100,000 through the MAV procurement processes. I have an addition to make or a change or addition to make to the report. In terms of financial value, one of the services provided was Australian standards through SIA Global. In the report, that is listed at our current spend is around $16,700. That's on the basis of MAV membership. In the report, we looked at a 5% saving. However, we've since clarified with SAI Global that if Council were not to be a member of the MAV, the charge would be $24,385 instead, so about $9,000 more as opposed to the 5% calculated in the report. So that was an update based on Council contacting SAI and them replying to us this week. I'm happy to take any questions from councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth, you flagged earlier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Wee, for reading the summary of the report. Look, I appreciate the level of detail that's gone into the report and the clarification that you've just made. There are some matters, though, that I would like to discuss with colleagues at a later time regarding this, and I ask consideration to a procedural motion, number 4, laying the question on the table, that if supported would enable us to defer this item to the next council meeting. There is no urgency to determine the outcome of this because our membership is current until 30th of June, so there is more than enough time to consider this if we defer it till the next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Bear with me while I take some advice. Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. I'm in search of a seconder for your procedural motion. Councillor Park.
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. I will then put that motion. All those in favour? I did not, because it's a procedural motion. Bear with me and I'll seek further advice. Councillors, as it's a procedural motion, I won't seek indications of opposition to it. I will put that motion as put by Councillor Hollingsworth. So the procedural motion to lay the question on the table is that this matter be deferred to be considered at a future council meeting.
So there'll be no discussion on this motion? No?
No,
Okay.
not at this juncture.
There's no debate on the motion.
Yeah, so the governance rules, we have just double-checked that no debate is permitted on this, so I will put that question. This is not one that we normally encounter in a meeting, so thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth, for challenging me. I'll now put that motion. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried. Councillors, that takes us to item 8, general business. Councillors, are there any items of general business? Councillor Franco.
Thank you. I'd like Council to note my concerns about the state of the playing fields at Dorothy Laver Reserve West. These sports fields are used by Ashburton United Soccer Club, one of the largest sports clubs in our municipality in terms of membership, and Alamein FC, a unique women's-only National Premier League football club in our municipality, providing tremendous opportunities for female players. I've received an ever-increasing number of representations from players and parents of both clubs concerned about the usability and safety of the fields for both training and matches. And Alamein FC are also concerned about their Football Victoria licence given the state of the fields. I urge council officers to look both at the short-term immediate needs for the upcoming season as well as the longer-term viability of the fields and the clubs in respect to the facilities. And I know some work's been done in that regard, which I'm appreciative of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. There appear to be no further items of general business. Item 9, urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? There appear to be not. Confidential business. Councillors, I believe we have one item of confidential business this evening. So can I therefore please have a motion to close the council meeting to the public in accordance with section 66(2)(a) and subsection 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 for personal information is defined. No, that's, I don't think, a necessary clause at this point.
No.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
So moved.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson.
Chair, might I seek your indulgence and move that, second that, by adding on to Councillor Hollingsworth's motion that the procedural motion for closing also to consider a further matter regarding legal advice received.
That's 3(1)(e).
Thank you, and I understand that is under section 3(1)(e). So, Councillor Thompson, I might take Councillor Park's advice here, and that is incorporated.
I think Councillor Park was happy to second, weren't you, Councillor Park? Yep.
Whichever.
Yep. No worries. So I'll now put...
We need to clear the room.
Yes.
It's confidential.
Yes, but can I put that motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I now put that motion?
I have a question, Chair. Could I have some clarity in respect of the additional item? Because if it relates to legal proceedings, I may have a conflict of interest and I may have to leave, but I'm unclear as to what's being alluded to based on what's being written there.
Certainly. Can we just bear with me 2 seconds, but I think we'll deal with the closure first.
He can't have a conflict when he doesn't have knowledge of the matter, so he's got no conflict at this juncture. He will have later. This was intended to make it quicker. There's no conflict at this juncture.
Councillors, I'm in receipt of advice that leads me to believe that, in fact, we may have missed an opportunity of urgent business if we perhaps don't go back on the agenda and deal with that item first. So I'll now head back to item 9 of urgent business and deal with that matter prior to moving on in the agenda to confidential business. So perhaps, Councillor Park, I might invite you to address your item, which I feel is probably urgent business, and we may then need to head into confidential within urgent business.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but anyway, if that's the way that that you wish to proceed, then I'm seeking admission of a matter as urgent business that relates to confidential legal advice and it pertains to consideration of the governance rules. That should be sufficiently clear for all present.
Thank you, Councillor Park. And do I have a seconder for this item to be admitted as urgent business at this point? Councillor Thompson? Just before you do, Councillor Franco?
I am happy to second that motion to bring it forward into urgent business.
Thank you. At this point, I might call for any conflicts of interest for anyone who feels that they may have a conflict at this juncture.
I'll declare a conflict of interest in relation to this matter and I'll leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. We'll call you back when this item is concluded.
So I presume, Chair, that you'll require a motion from me to move to close the meeting under section 66, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Yes, I'm...
In fact, I'll move that motion, if it hasn't already been.
So that's not quite the motion?
They can still be together. And then when we've disposed of the matter in which Councillor Franco has declared an interest, then we can invite him back to the chamber.
Just a point of
Thank you.
clarification, Mayor, just to ensure that the gallery is clear of any visitors at the appropriate time.
Yes. Thank you. So do I have a seconder for the closure motion in relation to the confidential business? Councillor Hollingsworth. Thank you. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. To the members of the community here with us, the live stream will cease while the confidential business is being discussed, and we will reopen the meeting to the public at the conclusion of this discussion. Thank you. Thank you. To the members of the community watching tonight's proceedings, welcome back to the live streaming of the council meeting, and we'll just check whether there's anyone in the gallery waiting outside to rejoin us, and I would anticipate not. Okay. So that brings us right here to the end, though, can't we? Yes. Why the hell is there more rapid question? Thank you. I'll just recap to those members of the community who have rejoined us or joined us for tonight's proceedings. Welcome back to the council meeting that has just been reopened, and you rejoin us in time for us to close the meeting. So this is the end of council business for this evening. But before I close the meeting, I want to thank all of you who have joined us and wish you all good health. Stay safe, and I now declare the council meeting closed. Thank you at 20:40.